Hello, Bob Van Rossum with Market Pro. Had a really interesting conversation with a friend of mine earlier this week. And Market Pro is a executive search firm. Specifically, all we do is focus on marketing. We work kind of director through CMO for marketing, digital, e-commerce, performance marketing, communications, PR, advertising, brand, anything that falls under the marketing umbrella we focus on. And if it's outside of that world, we don't. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've done over 250 CMO head of marketing searches. And it is fun for us to obviously work those searches, but then we also get people that know us from our neighborhood, or in this case, a friend of mine from college who reached out and said, hey, I'd like to get some advice on my job search. And always happy to have those conversations, always happy to help. This person was in medical sales, so it's not someone that we would work with as a candidate, but ultimately more than happy to provide assistance if at all possible. So a friend of mine from college reaches out and says, hey, this happened twice this week. I was interviewing for roles and I spoke to the recruiter who told me I was moving forward to the hiring manager. But based on my network, my understanding of these organizations, I was able to figure out that in both cases, I was not. I didn't make it to the hiring manager. And I'm really kind of frustrated. Why would that happen? Can you help me understand what I can do differently to mitigate this risk in the future? And so I said, well, let's take each instance separately because it could be multiple things. And so for the first one, just kind of walk me through the process. Were you working with an internal recruiter, an external recruiter, et cetera? And so basically, he was working with an external recruiter. That individual spoke to him, interviewed him, and told him he was going forward to the hiring manager, but ultimately did not forward his information. And so most likely that was a contingency search firm, right? What we do at Market Pro is retained executive search. And when we start on a search process, all roads to the hiring manager lead through us, but our job is to go out and find the best possible talent for our client. And we're going to interview 70 to 75 candidates to get our client the top 6 or 7. And it's a very deep, detailed vetting process on our end. Now compare that to contingency search, which is it's called contingency because ultimately they only get paid upon placing someone. So all their fee is contingent upon them placing someone. And what can be a challenge in that area is sometimes the client will engage multiple search firms, multiple contingency search firms, and they will also continue to work on the search internally. And that really can create a conflict in the process. Not intentionally, but it does happen. So the contingency search firm, as they're speaking to a candidate, if they have, their vetting process is not going to be as detailed as a retained search firm. Basically, it's typically 2 or 3 quick questions. Our focus is, for a contingency search firm, is first available talent, and as compared to retained executive search, which is best possible talent, right? But based on their conversations with the hiring manager, they have 2, maybe 3 questions that they're going to ask. If you pass that screen, you're going to the hiring manager. And in this case, my friend didn't pass the screen. He didn't exceed their expectations for what the right type of candidate looked like. And who knows why that would be. But if he had, they would have forwarded him. So why don't they just tell him, we don't see the right fit here, as we would, right? We, Market Pro, would tell the candidate, you've got a great background, great experience, but for this role, our client's looking for something different. And the reason they don't do that is because in case they're wrong and you, the candidate, send your information directly into the hiring manager, directly into HR, but if you find a path to the hiring manager that's not that search firm and you get the role, then they're going to end up not getting paid for the time and effort that they put in. So rather than be honest with you and take that chance, they're going to tell you you're going forward so that you won't do that. Right? And that's an unfortunate, outcome that happens in contingency search. So the only thing you can do as a candidate is ask the recruiter you're talking to, are you a retained search firm? And therefore you're the only people working with the hiring manager. And therefore, you have a lot more data information about the role and the position in the company than a contingency search firm likely does. And it's not to say you shouldn't work with a contingency search firm. There are good search firms out there that work on a contingency basis. And there are people that get hired through that process all the time. It's just a risk to understand. So the second one, he said he spoke to the internal recruiter, which is completely different. So now it's a corporation, someone who's their employee is interviewing him. And he came in through the employee referral program. So a friend of his that he used to work with at another organization who believes he's talented and thinks he's a good fit for this new company and role brought him in under the employee referral program. And employee referrals are a great way for organizations to hire talented people. Right? You have someone in your organization who's doing a great job, and you want them to bring other people they've worked with historically who are equally as talented. And if that person comes in and doesn't do a good job, it's going to reflect poorly on the person that referred them, right? So there's kind of this built-in quality assurance process. And that person that referred him, the employee, he's now tagged in the system, in their HR system, as he came in under employee referral, and whoever that individual was will get a bonus if he gets placed, if he gets hired, right? And 80% of the time, bonuses and the structure of that employee referral program is aligned well with the rest of the organization, meaning that recruiter that he also spoke to is going to get a bonus either per placement or per so many placements they make in a month, quarter, right? There's an incentive structure for them to bring people into the organization as well. What we've seen happen, and this is not most of the time, but we've seen it often enough that I'd say it's probably 20% of the time in an employee referral program, the organization decides if they're paying a bonus to the employee who brought the referral in, then they remove the bonus that they would pay to the recruiter. And that disincentivizes the recruiter from forwarding the best candidates. Because if that's the case here, and I don't know that it was, but the educated guess is that it was, then that recruiter forwards him as a candidate, and they are basically shorting their own compensation as a result. And so if you're an HR professional out there and you're designing an employee referral program, make sure that even though the person comes in from employee referral, your internal recruiter still gets the same bonus, because then the incentives align for you to bring in the best possible talent. Now, there's really not anything he can do to mitigate this, right? Or all he can do is go back to the person that referred him in and say, hey, I was told by the recruiter that they're forwarding my resume to the hiring manager. Would you just check and find out for me what that hiring manager thinks of my resume, my background experience? I'm really excited about the role. And that way, if the recruiter didn't forward the information, you'll be able to find that out because the hiring manager won't know what your friend is talking about. So hopefully this has been helpful. This is kind of a little bit more about the way our world, the recruiting world, works. And we appreciate your time.